President Trump marks 100 days in office this weekend. It's a milestone for any administration. So let's talk about what the president has done or not done with our political panel. Joining us is Democratic strategist Joe Zepecki, former Wisconsin communications director for President Obama, and Stephen Thompson, Republican strategist and political advisor to Governor Walker. Now, last week I had a chance to talk with President Trump while he was in town, while he was in Kenosha, about the lack of any big legislative accomplishments in his first 100 days. Here's what he said.
I think we are going to have a big win soon because we're going to have health care, and I believe that's going to happen. And, you know, there was no, loss with health care. This is just a constant negotiation.
Stephen, no loss yet on health care, but no win either. Was this a big missed opportunity for the president?
Well, I think we need to put things in perspective. Presidents serve 4-year terms, not 100-day terms. It took Barack Obama over a year to get the Affordable Health Care Act signed into law, and I think that President Trump's taking on bold issues like health care and taxes. It's going to take some time, but in the first 100 days, we have a new Supreme Court justice. We've got the Keystone Pipeline approved, and a series of Obama's regulations on businesses rolled back. I think it's a good first start.
So, Joe, Joe, he mentioned that Neil Gorsuch in the Supreme Court. Also, President Trump has used executive orders to roll back decisions by President Obama. He has signed 11 more than President Obama in his first 100 days. Are those big wins, Joe?
I don't think they're big enough for the people who kind of came out of the woodwork and believed that he was someone who could, as he promised to do, drain the swamp. And about 100 days in, the problem for Republicans is they're eating their own and they're their own worst enemy. You have founders of the Tea Party movement, which really was sort of the dawn of what's led to a President Trump, turning on him and saying this is in fact a swamp monster. And despite all the lofty rhetoric and big promises of action, we're just not seeing it and people aren't feeling it yet. And I think that's the big concern for the president moving forward.
All right, so let me ask you both. Stephen, President Trump tweeted the first 100 days is really sort of an artificial barrier, calling it, quote, a ridiculous standard. Do you agree?
I do. And presidents serve 4-year terms. I think that in a short period of time, any president needs to not only get legislative actions done, they're dealing with international crises, and they're also putting in place a new administration. I think that for the most part, he's got a lot done, and his supporters are pretty happy with it so far.
Joe, first 100 days overrated, or is this really the apex of power for any administration?
The apex of power, without a doubt. This was the time for big and bold action, and with complete Republican control of Washington, you would have expected far more to get done than we have seen out of this president in the first 100 days.
All right, time to do some grading. Let's start with you, Stephen. What would you give the president in his first 100 days?
After seeing the brief part of his tax plan yesterday, I'm going to give him a B.
All right, Joe?
I'll say a D because he did get Gorsuch on, and that's the only reason he hasn't been a failure, because what he's doing is not delivering on the promises he made.
A+ for both of you guys. Thank you for coming in.